Good morning, Vietnam. It is April 20th, 1973. I'm John Burgundy.
And I'm Jeffrey Corningstone.
Our Channel 37 news team is reporting live to bring you special coverage of conflict in Vietnam.
The war started because of symptoms, components, and consequences of the Cold War. It was caused simply because of America's fear of communism to all of the Southeast Asian countries.
The war has been going on since 1954. It has been a very deadly war. Death totals are absolutely mind-blowing. There have been reported 9,107 accidental deaths, 1,201 declared dead, 5,209 died of wounds, 236 have died of homicide, 938 soldiers have died of illness, 40,934 have been killed in action, 32 have been presumed dead, body remains covered, 91 presumed dead, body remains not recovered, 382 deaths of self-inflicted wounds, and the total deaths have been 58,220. 195,000 through 430,000 South Vietnamese civilians died in the war. 50,000 through 65,000 North Vietnamese civilians died. According to the Vietnamese government, there have been 1,100,000 North Vietnamese Viet Cong deaths. What's the weather out there, Jack?
And now for the weather report. This week's temperatures will remain hot and humid all the way through the weekend. Today has a high of 93 degrees and a low of 79 degrees, 60% chance of rain. Tomorrow there is a high of 92 degrees and a low of 79 degrees. There is also a 60% chance of rain. Wednesday has a high of 93 degrees and a low of 79 degrees, 40% chance of rain. For Thursday there is a high of 93 degrees and a low of 79 degrees, 40% chance of rain. On Friday there is a high of 92 degrees and a low of 72 degrees, 30% chance of rain. And this has been a Channel 37 News Weather Report. Back to you, Jeffrey.
Thanks for that weather report, Jack. That was a good weather report, huh, John?
Yes, indeed.
Now I will talk about some of the strategies that were used during the Vietnam War. One strategy that was used was the Tet Offensive, which was a series of attacks by Viet Cong forces that proved to many Americans that the Vietnam War was not being won. Another strategy was Agent Orange, where you would kill dense forests to increase visibility from the air. Next I will talk about the timeline of the war. In 1960, Cuba and Soviet Union signed a trade agreement and established diplomatic relations. In 1961, President Kennedy sent military advisors to Vietnam, Bay of Pigs, which was an attempt to invade Cuba. JFK sent 1,500 Cuban exiles by boat to the Bay of Pigs in Cuba. Castro ended up killing 300, and many criticized JFK. Another thing that happened in 1961 was the Berlin Wall, a wall that split Germany and Berlin, Germany into USA and France's non-communist side and the Soviet Union's communist side. Another thing was the race to the moon, where the U.S. and Soviet competition to be the first to have a person walk on the moon. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, where the Soviets were bringing weapons into Cuba. JFK ordered the Navy to form a blockade around Cuba to prevent Soviet ships from bringing more weapons in the country. In 1965, Ho Chi Minh refused peace talks with the U.S. In 1968, Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy were both assassinated. In 1969, Ho Chi Minh died in Hanau. In 1973, U.S. ground troops were all pulled out of Vietnam, and in 1965, North Vietnamese troops captured the country Saigon.
I'm Tony the Tiger, and for years I've been saying Kellogg's Sugar Frosted Flakes are great. But I'll bet you don't even know what they're made of, do you? Well, it's this. The golden goodness of corn. Kellogg's takes it, flakes it, sweetens it with just the right amount of sugar, then fortifies it with 8 vitamins. And the taste? Well, you tell him, little buddy.
They're great!
Oh, right on, Tiger.
That was a great timeline, Jeffrey. And now here's a special report from our political correspondent.
The Vietnam War ended up costing the U.S. around $584 billion. In financial news, Dow Jones and Johnson & Johnson opened at $145, Coca-Cola at $75.75, General Electric at $76.12, McDonald's at $36, and ExxonMobil at $55.88. The Cambodian campaign starts, also known as Cambodian Intrusion, was a series of military operations conducted in eastern Cambodia by the United States, the Republic of Vietnam, South Vietnam. During the Vietnam War, 335,790 U.S. troops have been pulled out of the Vietnam, and this has been Channel 37 News Financial Report.
You heard it from us, folks. I'm John Burgundy,
And I'm Jeffrey Corningstone.
shooting live from Studio 37 News Station. You stay classy, Vietnam.